He saw a target. That was all. A figure stepping out of a car on a quiet residential street in the middle of the night. Someone who looked easy, someone who looked alone, someone who looked like the next one. He did not know her name. He did not know that she had spent the last 2 years, 5 months, and 20 days working nights at one of Chicago's busiest police districts, studying law during the day, sleeping somewhere in between, refusing to choose between the two because she had decided, at 24 years old, that both were possible and that waiting was not something she did. He did not know she was 1 week from her Master of Jurisprudence degree. He did not know she had already passed her FBI Academy entrance exam, that a final interview was scheduled, that a third career was already forming before the second one was finished. He did not know that the people who worked alongside her at CPD's 5th District, Calumet, 727 East 111th Street, called her Princess P, not from a ceremony or a formal recognition, but because of what they watched her do every single shift. Because she walked into volatile situations that unnerved seasoned officers and came back out having connected with every person in the room. Because she treated everyone she encountered, regardless of why she was encountering them, as someone worth her full attention. He did not know that on this very night, her last shift, she had made a routine arrest. And that when 5th District Commander Tyrone Pendarvis later told that same person what had happened to her, they broke down and wept. He saw a figure stepping out of a car. He raised his weapon. He had no idea who she was. Before this goes any further, drop a comment right now and tell us where in the world you are watching this from. Because what this man did next changed everything. He did not appear out of nowhere. None of them did. By the time Jalen Frazier was 16 years old, the Cook County juvenile court system had already seen his name enough times to know it by heart. Robbery, unlawful use of a weapon, possession of a stolen vehicle. Each time the system reached out, caught him, and let him go. He was on active juvenile probation for armed robbery when May 5, 2023 arrived. Not suspected, not being watched, active probation, walking free. There is a particular kind of confidence that produces, the kind that does not announce itself but quietly hardens into certainty. The certainty that the consequences other people fear simply do not apply to you. That the door the system keeps opening back up was open specifically for you. Frazier was not the only one who had learned that lesson. Jaquan Buchanan, 18, had a juvenile arrest warrant outstanding against him since November 2022, 6 months before this night, for aggravated vehicular hijacking. It had not slowed him down by a single day. Joseph Brooks, 19, had been arrested 9 times since 2019. Armed robbery, theft, carjacking. Cook County had formally classified him as a violent juvenile offender and then closed his most recent detention case just weeks before May 6th. Trevor Breland, 19, had graduated from the juvenile system into the adult one, convicted of aggravated unlawful use of a weapon, sentenced to 2 years of adult probation. He was actively serving that probation on the night everything began. 4 young men, combined records stretching back years across every level of the court system. Every single name already known, every single one still out there. It started with a phone call, not a plan that had been building for weeks. Not a calculated decision made in the cold light of reason. A phone call. Jaquan Buchanan's girlfriend wanted money for a barbecue. That was it. That was the whole of it. And somewhere in the space between that request and the decision that followed, 4 young men dressed themselves in black, covered their faces, picked up their weapons, and climbed into a white Dodge Avenger on Chicago's South Side. Buchanan took the wheel. They started moving. They were not heading anywhere specific. They were looking for the right kind of person, someone alone, someone distracted, someone who would not see them coming until it was already over. Just before midnight, they found her, the 900 block of East 46th Street in the Kenwood neighborhood. A 33-year-old woman stepping out of her car near a restaurant. From inside the Dodge, she looked like exactly what they needed, unaware, unhurried, easy. The car slowed. They moved. Within seconds, her Louis Vuitton belt, credit cards and phone were gone and they were already back in the vehicle, pulling away. One stop, barely a minute, onto the next. At approximately 12:40 a.m., they pulled onto the 4700 block of South Indiana Avenue. The women stayed in the Dodge. The 4 of them took a red Kia Forte, switched into it deliberately, left the Dodge behind. A cleaner vehicle, less traceable. The kind of decision that does not come from panic, it comes from practice. By 1:07 a.m., they were on the 10,000 block of South Wallace Street. Two women outside a home, gone before either could fully process what had just happened on a street they thought they knew. Minutes later, South Merrill Avenue. A man standing near his vehicle, his phone, the keys to his Tesla, a specific target on a specific block chosen deliberately, taken without hesitation. 4 stops, 5 people, less than 2 hours. And all of it, every single moment of it, had started because someone wanted money for a barbecue. They were not done. The red Kia moved through Avalon Park like it belonged there. It did not belong there. Inside, 4 young men were still riding the momentum of a night that had given them everything they had gone looking for, and nothing that had slowed them down. No resistance, no sirens, no reason to stop. Treville Breland, Jaquan Buchanan, and Joseph Brooks stepped out and moved toward her. Jalen Frazier stayed in the vehicle. Surveillance cameras mounted along the block captured what followed, recording the full sequence without pause, without mercy, and without the ability to intervene. She was hit by multiple rounds, but she did not go quietly. She drew her own weapon and fired back, and for a moment, the momentum that had carried these 4 young men unchallenged across the South Side for nearly 2 hours met something it had not encountered all night. Joseph Brooks would later admit in open court that he fired the moment he saw her reach for her weapon. When it was over, one of them returned to where she had fallen, took her service weapon from its holster, and walked back to the Kia. They left. She was left on her front lawn, alone. In the uniform she had worn to protect the city that was not yet coming for her. Not yet. Not for another 20 minutes. The Kia kept moving. No sirens behind them. No lights in the rearview. Nothing chasing them through the quiet streets of Chicago's South Side at 1:42 in the morning. Just the city, dark, still, and completely unaware of what had just happened on South Blackstone Avenue. They had no way of knowing that CPD's ShotSpotter technology had already registered it. 9 shots, exact location, exact timestamp. The system had done precisely what it was built to do. Detected the gunfire the moment it happened and sent an alert to CPD Zone 6 dispatch. But the alert joined a queue. The district was already carrying more active calls than it could move through. The alert did not disappear. It did not get cancelled. It simply waited, held behind everything else that had already been demanding attention before South Blackstone Avenue entered the picture. 20 minutes passed. In those 20 minutes, the Kia put distance between itself and the neighborhood. The street it left behind remained, exactly as it looked from the outside, residential, darkened, quiet. No neighbor appeared, no passing car stopped. Nothing on that block announced itself to anyone who was not already there. What finally reached emergency services was not a witness. It was her Apple Watch, sending an automatic alert, registering the kind of impact the device associated with a road incident. A single officer, not assigned to her street, not looking for anything connected to what had happened, found her by chance. He drove her to University of Chicago Medical Center, 5841 South Maryland Avenue himself. She was pronounced dead on arrival. 20 minutes. That was the distance between the alert and the response. The exchange was arranged and completed. A firearm belonging to a sworn officer of the law passed between hands like it meant nothing, like it was just another transaction on just another night. They scattered. They went home. They waited. Nothing came. No sirens found them. No knock at the door. The city, as far as any of them could tell, had not yet figured out where to look. And that silence, that absence of consequence, was the most dangerous thing that could have happened to Jalen Frazier. Because by that same Saturday evening, Frazier was on his phone. He called a friend, asked if the friend had seen the news. There had been a report, he said, about a police officer on the South Side. His friend said yes. Frazier said it was his work. He did not lower his voice. He did not choose his words carefully. He delivered it the way someone delivers news they want credit for, directly, without hesitation, without a single moment of awareness that what he was saying was the most damaging thing he would ever say out loud. He kept talking. He described the night in detail, specific detail, information that investigators had deliberately held back from every public statement about the case. Things that only someone who had been on South Blackstone Avenue that morning could have known. He said all of it to a friend on a phone, because he was certain that was safe. The friend went to the authorities. Investigators arranged a second call. Deliberate, controlled, recorded. The friend dialed Fraser again. This time, detectives were in the room, listening on speakerphone to every word. Fraser answered. He spoke freely. He confirmed everything. Then word reached his mother. She learned what her son had done, and she made her decision without hesitation. She brought Jalen Fraser to the doors of CPD's 5th District Station, 727 East 111th Street, and walked him inside. The same station, the same officers, the ones who had just lost one of their own. Fraser had spent the day certain the night was already behind him. He was wrong. Jaquan Buchanan needed somewhere to go, not because he was afraid, because he was thinking ahead, the way someone thinks ahead when they believe the worst is already behind them. He called an ex-girlfriend on Sunday evening, May 7th, told her he needed to lay low for a while. Then he ordered her an Uber to come and collect him from Trevor Breland's residence on the 7600 block of South Bishop Avenue. He climbed into the back seat. The Uber pulled away, and then it stopped. Law enforcement had been watching the Bishop Avenue address long before Buchanan made that call. They pulled the vehicle over within seconds of him getting inside. As officers moved in, Buchanan found himself caught with an illegally modified firearm loaded with an extended magazine, and still wearing around his waist the Louis Vuitton belt he had taken from the very first person they had robbed, still on his body, more than 30 hours later, as though the connection it made between him and everything that followed had simply never crossed his mind. Whatever confidence had carried him through Sunday disappeared in that moment. Officers surrounded the Bishop Avenue address. After a standoff that stretched for several hours, Joseph Brooks and Trevor Breland surrendered. Both were taken into custody before the night was over. All four were now in custody. Within days, every one of them was standing inside Cook County Criminal Court, 2650 South California Avenue, in front of Judge David Kelly, who looked at the evidence assembled against them and described it as a mountain. He held all four without bond. The night they had believed was already behind them had been waiting for them the entire time. While all four of them sat in holding cells, the calendar kept moving. It moved towards Saturday, May 13th, 2023, a date that had existed on Ariana Preston's calendar long before any of them had ever turned onto her street. A date she had been working toward through night shifts and law school classes and everything else she had refused to put down. Her mother, Dion Hoon, walked across the stage at Loyola University Chicago School of Law, 25 East Pearson Street, instead. She accepted the Master of Jurisprudence diploma on her daughter's behalf, in a room full of people who had come expecting a celebration and found themselves standing inside something else entirely. Around the same time, the family learned that Ariana had already passed her FBI Academy entrance exam. A final interview had been scheduled, another direction her life had been. Quietly moving, one the people who loved her were only now learning about in full.
I stand before you guys today, and I had a beautiful daughter that I know deserves justice. As I sat in that courtroom today, the people I really felt sorry for was those boys. Anytime you can shoot somebody and say, that was my work, what kind of human would say that about another human being? We're gonna get through this. Ariana will get justice.
On May 17th, 2023, the city showed up for her. Over 500 people gathered. Officers lined the streets outside Trinity United Church of Christ, 400 West 95th Street. She was laid to rest at Lincoln Cemetery, 12,300 South Kedzie Avenue. The city that had not reached her in time reached her family instead. On September 9th, 2023, the 8,200 block of South Blackston Avenue, and the street where it had all ended, was officially renamed Officer Ariana M. Preston Way. And on January 22, 2025, the Peace for Preston Foundation presented a $100,000 endowment to Loyola University Chicago School of Law, launching the Ariana Preston Memorial Scholarship for officers and law students committed to public service. Through 2024 and deep into 2025, defense motions accumulated at Cook County Criminal Court, 2650 South California Avenue. Attorneys for Trevor Breland, Jaquan Buchanan and Jalen Frazier moved to block a firearms expert from testifying, arguing that ballistics evidence linking their clients to the scene should never reach a jury. Cook County Judge Adrian Davis ruled against it. The firearms testimony would stand. Joseph Brooks's attorneys filed separately, arguing that his confession should be suppressed entirely. Detectives had re-questioned Brooks 17 hours after he invoked his right to remain silent. Everything he said in that second session, every admission, every detail, should be excluded as a result. Judge Davis rejected that motion too. The confession would stand. On Thursday, April 2, 2026, Joseph Brooks, now 22 years old, stood before Judge Adrian Davis at Cook County Criminal Court and pleaded guilty to 1 count of first-degree murder. The room he stood in was unlike any courtroom he had faced before. Preston's family sat on one side. On the other, and along every wall, filling every available space, stood officers of the Chicago Police Department, colleagues, people who had worked alongside her, people who had shown up not because they were required to, but because they needed to be present for what was about to happen. Brooks addressed the court before sentencing. "I got caught up in a fast life," he said. The room absorbed that. Then Judge Adrian Davis sentenced him to 55 years in prison. Dion Moons stood. She faced Brooks directly across that room, 3 years of hearings, motions, and waiting behind her, and she delivered the words she had come to say. "You're doing 55, she told him. "I've got it for life." Outside the courthouse, she told the world what she needed it to understand. "People keep saying justice," she said. "There's no justice in this. I never wanted to trade my daughter's life for a young man sitting in jail. Trevor Breland, Jaquan Buchanan, Jalen Frazier, 3 cases, still pending, still moving through the same court system that had known their names for years before any of this began. And the service weapon taken from South Blackstone Avenue that night, passed between hands like it was ordinary, had never been found. I got caught up in a fast life." That was all Joseph Brooks had. 55 years inside the Illinois Department of Corrections to sit with the distance between those 7 words and the life he had taken on South Blackstone Avenue. 55 years to understand that the system he had moved through repeatedly, the one that had caught him and released him and caught him again, had finally run out of patience. The other 3 were still waiting. Trevor Breland, Jaquan Buchanan, Jalen Frazier, each of them still inside the Cook County legal process as of April 2026. Still in the same system, still waiting for their own conclusion. But outside those walls, something was growing that none of them had anticipated and none of them could reach. She had written down everything she wanted to accomplish. She did every single thing on that list, until 4 young men decided one night that a barbecue was worth more than her life. The system had their names long before that night. It has them now too, and this time there is no door opening back up.